Please welcome Deborah Marton.
Good afternoon. Here I am. Okay, demonstrating the obvious, the Haven Project. So I'm going to talk now about things that you all know, that we all know, and how we can start with this project, the Haven Project, to demonstrate them in a way that can actually lead to things changing. So since the beginning of human settlements, and this is an old settlement, we have understood that it's critical to quality of life, that people's comfort in their lives, that everything about your life is connected to access to open space, to green things, to growing things, to nature. But what if you lived in a place that looks like this? Many of us do live in places that look like this. And what if our waterfront looks like that? Landscapes like this come from the fact that cities are not organized optimally along the way that users use cities. Cities are organized along the lines of how cities were organized in the 19th century. So core competencies, those who deal with open space are in parks, water systems is environmental protection, transportation will manage streets, and so in many ways we end up with kind of lost landscapes like this because they're not mapped to the right part of the city and they fall between the cracks. Very frequently, low-income communities bear the brunt of that kind of organizational system, that we are kind of an ocean liner moving forward on that system, even though we understand that actually we should be optimizing the opportunities afforded by this kind of landscape. These images are from Port Morris and Mott Haven. Port Morris and Mott Haven are typically noted as the poorest congressional district in the country, much to the consternation of many of the residents. The fact is that this is a community where many new Americans arrive and land and make their way as new immigrants and then leave to go elsewhere. So that skews the kind of judgment of what the income is, but that's how this neighborhood has come to be known. And actually, it rings the bell on many, many other metrics that you can think of, including asthma, obesity, all kinds of health problems, persistent crime over many generations. It's a neighborhood that's really struggled in many, many ways, not least, and perhaps as a causal fact, because of the quality of its open space. So my organization, New York Restoration Project, recently launched the Haven Project, and the cover on the left shows the cover of the plan that we've launched, and you can find it on nyrp.org if you're interested in reading the whole plan. It's aiming to demonstrate through a revolutionary combination of capital renovation, so actual capital work where we'll come in, build new streets and sidewalks, build new parks, and connect that to data collection, even lay down a baseline of data at the beginning. And we seek to prove the theory that optimizing the built environment will measurably increase health, safety, economic activity, and joy. And we'll try to measure all of those things. I don't know exactly how we'll measure joy, but ideally, if we show increases in health, safety, and economic activity, we can assume that in here and there is some joy. The Haven Project, so this is Port Morris, which is in the western part of the South Bronx, the eastern side of that peninsula. So you can see that that plan, in many ways, isn't very different on its surface from what many master plan, neighborhood scale master plans look like. The project team designed the plan according to user need. So there are a lot of green dots on this plan that actually would never have been placed there by the municipality because, for example, that waterfront edge is state land. Or there are parts of this land that are private, parts of it are mapped to city agencies that aren't actually in the business of developing open space. So this plan looks at what is the best way to move about this community and what is the best way to optimize users' open spaces and access to the waterfront, not from the point of view of what's doable by how city agencies are organized. Now, I should say, because I see our Parks Commissioner here, that there is a program now called Parks Without Boundaries. and Parks Department and other city agencies, and others have spoken about this today, are working to work across boundaries. Why New York Restoration Project has entered this territory is that as a private nonprofit, we aren't subject to any of the strictures that city agencies are, so we can not only work across ownership boundaries, but also bundle funding from various sources and collaborate with our partners on the city side to fill in gaps where they're unable to work. So this is a lot of words on paper, but what it's showing is an impact framework that is the base for us making the connection between the design goals, the strategies that we deploy, and then what will the short and long-term outcomes be in the landscape of the city. And then we tie that to design decisions. So, for example, our research has shown that air quality at the waterfront is superior to air quality in the interior of the neighborhood. So a preliminary goal of the project is to develop waterfront spaces and make sure that open space near the waterfront is accessible to residents of these communities. And you can see there just the tracking of the connecting of the work to the design goals, to the outcomes. Again, the study showed that access to large open spaces of 6 acres or larger leads to a decrease in body mass index on a population basis, but not smaller spaces. So there's a goal to get people onto Randall's Island and have them access larger open spaces. And that's the entrance to the Randall's Island connector. See the arrow right there. Community spaces, joining in the community, connecting to your own history tends to build more stable, connected communities. And this is the history of this community. Those are gantries that used to load freight onto barges. And so that gantry site, which looks like the left now, could be turned into open space like the right. So we have partnered with data partners, including those listed here, and we are laying in a baseline of data primarily about health, but really about how people not only are actual health metrics, but how they feel about their lives. And we'll track that over time with these partners. By monitoring neighborhood-level data, we can quantify what we all know to be true, that access to nature and open spaces is critical to quality of life, and that by proving these connections, will open doors to other kinds of funding to bring these improvements. So these are not new ideas, they're obvious, but the goal of this project is to show that if we improve health by improving the quality of the built environment, then we should invest in health with the savings that we would have for improved quality of life afterwards. And that's the goal of this project, the Haven Project. Thank you very much.